CSM mistakes were made. I did this video by request of one of my subscribers to the CSM Mistakes Were Made channel. She wanted a video on the 1Up-2Down method. And I had done it before, but I seriously had to study it. And it was really hard to write up the written instructions that I will link in the description if you want to access those and print those out. It's not a terribly hard heel or toe to do, but the heels are slightly different from the toes, and you'll see that in the video. Why do people like to do the 1Up-2Down method? First of all, it seems to take forever. I think it's a perception and not a reality, but it seems like the increases just go on forever and ever. There are two reasons I think people like the 1Up-2Down method. One, it's a very nice looking seam. And two, it's hard to drop stitches. So I tend to drop stitches on conventional heels and toes, and this method is less likely to drop stitches. So consider doing it for that reason alone. But it does yield a very nice looking result. I'd like to thank the two videos that I consulted to write up the instructions and to do my own video were done by Sarah Easter, and I've got those in the written instructions, and I'll link them in the description separately as well. Sarah Easter made a video years ago, and so did Jamie Mayfield. And so those are two videos you might consider watching if you want to get their viewpoints too. I think I've done it the same way they have. I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. In this video, I want to show how to crank a 1Up-2Down heel. I will also do a 1Up-2Down toe, but they are different in some ways, so I wanted to make them into separate videos. To start off most of my videos, I like to show my landmarks. Here are my halfway points, here and here. I painted needle number 1 red, but also the needle on the other side of the hash mark, and I've done the same thing over here on both sides of the hash mark. I've painted those needles red so you can see maybe a little bit better how I make decisions at the transition points. My target needles are here, and you can't see this one because it's buried in the V-cam. My yarn carrier is at 6 o'clock, which is where I think most people would know that's how you want to start your heel, by raising the needles in the back. We leave one extra needle in work on each side just north of the halfway mark because we're going to start this heel a little differently just so that we can avoid a hole at the heel. All right, 6 o'clock, the needles are raised, we put our heel spring on, and we crank a row. Lift these two needles on the right together, and you'll do the same thing on the left. And that's the only double decrease that we'll do. Then we crank conventional decreases by lifting a needle on the yarn side. And as you can see, we're getting close to the target needles, which are pivot points where we start our increases. So we'll do this target needle on the right, raising it, and then we'll do the one on the left as normal, but that's our cue to start dropping 2 on the opposite side. This is where we begin the 1Up-2Down method. At the point where you raise your target needle for the last decrease, you lower 2 on the right. We raise 1 on the right now and lower 2 on the left. We raise on the side of the yarn and lower on the opposite side. Lower 2 on the opposite side. Raise 1, lower 2. Raise 1, lower 2. Raise 1, lower 2. Raise 1, lower 2. I would recommend that you do your needle manipulation before you interrupt yourself like I'm doing here for this video. Also, that would count for raising your heel forks or talking to your husband. All right, so everything's set. I can keep going. Crank, raise 1, lower 2. 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 And now we're getting pretty close to the fins. Raise 1, lower 2. I'm going to crank clockwise to 12. And my situation is that I've got 2 needles up on the right and 1 needle up on the left. Raise 1, lower 2, crank counterclockwise to 12. We raise the needle on the right and lower these 2 on the left. After we've cranked clockwise and we've got 1 raised needle on the right and nothing raised on the left, we do go ahead and raise that needle on the left. We crank to 6, and instead of lowering this by itself and continuing, we'll lower all of them together. And this is where we continue into the foot. So let's crank a few rows. And that is how to crank a 1-up-2 method heel. Now let's start a toe. A toe is a little bit of a different animal. In the beginning, the needles that we raise out of work are exactly 1/2 the needles. So here are my halfway points. I raise 36 of the 72 needles out of work. Of course, the heel spring would need to be put on just like the heel. And we will start our decreases conventionally with raising a needle on the side of the yarn, just like always. So just like the heel, we will do our normal decrease on the right. We will do the normal decrease on the left, but that's our trigger to lower the 2 on the right, very similar to the heel, and that's how we start the 1-up-2-down method. Raise a needle on the side of the yarn and lower 2 on the opposite side. Raise a needle and lower 2. And again, do your needle manipulation before you interrupt yourself. And I think you'll be less likely to get kind of confused. Raise a needle, lower 2. Raise a needle, lower 2. Raise a needle, lower 2. And you'll find yourself saying this to yourself to keep yourself on track. Now, I just want to say what I said in the introduction is true. The act of lowering 2 needles into the half knit position, of course, is a really good way not to drop a stitch. I have not dropped a single stitch, and probably I've done maybe 10 or 15 heels and toes this way. And this may be why people like this method, because raising a needle over here, that's no big deal. But lowering 2 together, when you're really, these are where you're doing increases, seems to benefit you because it's less likely to drop. So raise a needle, lower 2. Those 2 lowered needles seem to be resistant to dropping stitches. We're coming up on the transition to Kitchener, and this still I have to concentrate on this. So I raised a needle, I almost lowered it, but I raise a needle, I crank a row. I raise a needle, lower 2, and crank a row. Now, I'm raising that needle and I'm lowering 2. I'm at 12 o'clock after having cranked clockwise. I've got 2 needles on the south side that are raised, 1 needle on the north side that I haven't done any needle manipulation yet. Raise a needle on the left, so you now have 2 needles raised over here, and lower these 2 together on the right. This will be the second to last pass. Now, we have, this is the transition point to Kitchener and to ending at 9 and adding waste yarn. Here's the situation you should be in right before you transition to cutting your yarn and then adding waste yarn. You'll be tempted to raise the needle on the right. It is, after all, south of the halfway mark, but don't. Resist the urge to raise the needle on the right, leave it down, but do lower these 2. So don't raise the one on the right, and do lower the last 2 needles south of the halfway mark on the left and crank your last pass, ending at 12. Okay, so you finished the last pass. Now we're at a junction where we would take our scissors and cut the yarn in order to bring it around to 9 o'clock and into the cylinder. And we would add some waste yarn. We would prepare for Kitchenering. Add the waste yarn at 9 o'clock, just like so. Lower these needles back into work, and of course check the latches. So far so good. Let's crank around. And as most crankers know, these holes are not only acceptable, in my case, I think they're very excellent landmarks for marking which side to Kitchener back and forth. So with the 1-up-2-down method, you don't give up that. You should have 2 holes on each side if you've done it right. So let's pull this off the machine and see what we've got. Okay. Here's the toe we just did. That is a really nice looking seam. And looking at it closely, you can see like almost 2 little eyelets on either side of the pivot point. So here's the other side. Really nice. So that's the toe that we would close as conventionally with a Kitchener. Here's the heel we did. And there you can see a little bit of a deformity from the heel fork right there, but that goes away, as you know. So it's a really nice way to do heels and toes. There's no hole here where there is for the toe. So done properly, a heel shouldn't generate a hole right here. All right, so that's the 1-up-2-down method for the heel and the 1-up-2-down method for the toe. I sure hope this helps.